Hello and welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is Lonnie Catherine and I'll be serving as your moderator throughout today's meeting. I'll be here in the background throughout, just making sure that everything runs smoothly and answering any questions you have. This webinar has been designed to be a roundtable type of discussion in an open forum. That means your questions or contributions are highly encouraged once Santiago opens the chat room. And the chat menu is located on the right-hand side of your screen where the panelists can view and address your comments and questions right here. Feel free to add an opinion, to add any insight that you have to offer, and or ask a question. If any of the panelists are unable to get to your questions or comments, then I'll do my best to reach out to you directly. Santiago could also invite you to join the panelists in a live discussion, depending on your question, though he'll usually wait to the tail end to do so. This is completely voluntary, but if you want to participate in the live forum with other panelists, you absolutely have to have a headset like the one that I'm wearing right here. The earbuds prevent any potential feedback issues, and we just want to make sure the clarity of the video call is there for everyone. And the last thing, since this webinar is streaming live, it will require a little more bandwidth. So I recommend turning off all other applications that require an online connection, such as Netflix or your Google Drive or any music streaming apps that you have. Also, you may want to notify anyone in your home that if they're running those programs, either their program's going to get interrupted or your live stream is going to get interrupted, because these live streams suck up a little bit more bandwidth than usual. You can find more troubleshooting tips on the document you received earlier, or click on the URL that's also located in your chat room. I see Santiago has entered the room, so let's get started. Santiago started performing magic at the age of 9. He got paid for his first gig at 13, and in 1988 was hired as a radio DJ at a small local radio station. After that, he opened his own DJ business under the name DJ Light and Magic. In 2008, Santiago refined his business to specialize specifically in wedding celebrations, and he's worked exclusively in weddings since then. He's a graduate of New Mexico State University, where he earned his bachelor's degree in English and foreign languages, and then went on to earn his master's in literature in 2006. Originally from Socorro, New Mexico, Santiago currently resides with his partner and little two-wiener dog Tito in Bellevue, Washington, where he's also an active member of the Traveling Toastmasters Club, which is housed at the Expedia Worldwide headquarters, which is where Santiago and I met. I would like to welcome to the forum your host, Mr. Santiago Naranjo.
Oh, thank you so much for that introduction. My name is Santiago, and it's a pleasure for me to be here. Now, just in full disclosure, we had some technical glitches earlier today, so this segment here is a re-recording, so it'll replace some of the glitches that were recorded earlier today. That being said, thank you for showing up and welcome to the online forum. Today we're going to cover 5 rituals that centered around the wedding ceremony. Later on, I'm going to be talking about the Tasting of the Elements ritual, along with the chocolate ceremony. We'll be covering the Filipino Catholic wedding rituals, everything that's involved in that. There's a lot of components to the Filipino Catholic wedding rituals. Also, we're going to be covering the hand fasting rituals and finally the whiskey barrel ceremony, all taking place here in the next hour. We are going to be utilizing a lot of the same words. You're going to hear terminology like the words ceremony, rites, rituals, symbols, symbolism, traditions, customs. All of these are going to be used today, and they all go to show that these rituals are deep with history and cultural context. And so just be ready to hear those words during today's webinar. Now, the mission and purpose, we've focused this webinar to reach out and help the engaged couple who is or soon going to be planning their wedding celebration. And it's our goal that we're here to help provide you with some insight and guidance in putting together the various components of your wedding ceremony. So by the end of this webinar, we hope that you're going to discover some really cool options that you can incorporate into the proceedings of your wedding ceremony, as well as learning a little bit about the history and the cultural background, the inner workings of the rituals, all that we're going to cover today. And with these ideas, we hope to evoke a bit of inspiration and motivation to create a unique ceremony. We as professionals, we know firsthand that putting together a wedding ceremony, well, yeah, it can be challenging, but it can also free your creative spirit and allow you to put together a beautiful event that's going to match your personalities, your tastes, your individual preferences, and your values. Where there are family cultural differences, well, it's within the wedding ceremony that you can create some custom rituals that will unify. They're going to bring your family together in such a beautiful way, and you'll only be limited by your imagination. So it can go from being very stressful to actually being very enjoyable. That being said, we do live in the digital age, and with so much information out there, it is easy to get dazed and confused amongst all of the noise. We are here to provide you clarity and to bring you that creating something special doesn't have to be so, again, stressful or overwhelming. And finally, we are here to help. Throughout the webinar, Lonnie will be sharing URLs that will connect you to each one of our moderators' websites. She will also provide you information where you can find the show notes on today's webinar. These will contain a listing of all the resources that we've covered today, and they're going to allow you to retrace your steps in our research, all the research that we did to bring you the information that you're viewing today. So there's going to be a replay of today's webinar that's going to be sent out later this afternoon. It's going to be available to you. That way you can access it, but only for the next 48 hours. And all of this information will be posted on my blog later this afternoon. So let me turn down my phone so I'm not having that happen again. Let's try that again. It's been an absolute honor to introduce our first panelist. She's been a full-time wedding officiant in the state of Washington since 2009. And she is one of the highest rated and most reviewed wedding officiants in the Pacific Northwest today. She's got a real heart for community and the people, which is evidenced through the hundreds of engaged couples that have chosen her to preside over the big day. She's also an entrepreneur who is high in demand, as well as a mom and the owner of two beautiful chocolate Labradors. You can see a picture of her and her Labradors on her website on her About page. I'd like to welcome to the forum the amazing Ms. Elaine Way. How are you doing, Elaine?
Santiago, thank you for such a lovely introduction. I'm doing wonderful. So happy to be here.
It's good to have you. Definitely good to have you on board. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
Our next panelist is a wedding officiant serving Western Washington and the Northern Cascades. He's formerly the head chaplain for the King County Sheriff's and the Shoreline Fire Department, and has conducted, get this, over 2,500 custom-tailored wedding ceremonies to date. He's earned 2 graduate degrees in ministry theology and continues his studies in what I've termed to be marital sciences, the engineering of the wedding ceremony. Please welcome to the forum Chaplain Dale Admonson. How are you doing, Chaplain Dale?
Santiago, I'm doing great. Good to be with you and with the other panelists, and greetings to everybody attending on their own computer screens. Great event, great idea. Thank you, Santiago.
Well, welcome aboard, Chaplain. It's good to have you. Our final panelist, she has been providing couples with over 10 years of happy memories and eloquently spoken ceremonies. She has over 7 years experience as a wedding officiant and 3 years as a day of coordinator. Couples, vendors, guests, they've all raved about the eloquence and sincerity in which she speaks, the timbre of her voice, her professionalism, and the joy she brings to their very special and big day. She's featured on Wedding Wire magazine. Please welcome Reverend Amber Bartz. How you doing, Amber?
Hello, Santiago. I am doing just fine. How about yourself?
I am doing excellent, and it's good to have everyone here today. It's a beautiful day in Seattle. I'm sure it's just as beautiful all in your parts. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be covering 4 very specific rituals in a wedding ceremony. And I'd like to start off with the chocolate ceremony. And Reverend Bartz, you're going to be covering the chocolate ceremony. You want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure, Santiago. So, chocolate. Most people love chocolate. And while there's no one history to where a unity ceremony comes from, each unity ceremony kind of has its own little history. The Maya and the Aztecs believed that cacao was discovered by the gods in a mountain and was to be given to the people following their creation. The Maya had a yearly festival even to honor their cacao god. It's thought that for nearly 4,000 years, the world has indulged in chocolate bars, candy kisses, hot cocoa, chocolate ice cream, and numerous other forms. The idea of a chocolate treat is far from a modern one. Some say it's hard to pin down exactly when chocolate was born, but it's clear that it was cherished from the start. For several centuries in pre-modern Latin America, cacao beans were considered valuable enough to be used as currency. 1 bean could be traded for a tamale, while 100 beans could purchase a good turkey hen, according to a 16th century Aztec document. The use of chocolate may have begun in the New World with the ancient Olmec civilization around 1500 BC to 500 BC in Mesoamerica, and continued on through the time of the Maya and Aztecs before making its trek across to the Old World around the 16th century. Now, the formulation and serving techniques of the chocolate were somewhat different than today, mainly consumed as an unheated liquid by the Aztecs and generally heated by the Maya. Chocolate was the drink of choice for the elites, and with the addition of hot chilies, maize, spices, peanut butter, vanilla, and other flavors and texture enhancers made the chocolate beverage a spicy and sultry drink enjoyed only by those who were able to afford it, or by those who were specifically chosen to enjoy its benefits. Both the Mayans and Aztecs believed that cacao beans had magical or even divine properties suitable for use in the most sacred rituals of birth, marriage, and death. And they didn't use sugar back then. That's kind of something the Europeans added to it, or the Swiss. So now in a chocolate ceremony, there are various ways to approach this, or any unity ceremony for that matter. Chocolate has been used as a metaphor for life, to describe the sweet tooth one or both of the people before you may have. It has been called an aphrodisiac, a spiritual experience, and so why not add it as a unity ceremony? Absolutely. I found it over 9 years ago. I found it over 9 years ago in my research. So while not performed often or by any other officiants that I know of, it is not new to the world of weddings. So kind of how I start a chocolate ceremony, it just depends on the couple, but you go into it with, for chocolate is one of the few gifts that which the giver can visualize with some accuracy the exact sensation that the receiver will experience when they indulge in it. The very presence of chocolate makes people smile, their eyes glow, and hearts beat faster. As I've mentioned, chocolate's been considered the food of the gods and has been used as a metaphor for life. A simple box of chocolates is the perfect representation of what life may be like as a married couple. The possible flavors and textures are endless, which only serves to add to one's excitement. The prospect of discovering a new treat for the palate is like the lone explorer discovering new and uncharted territory. The lure to which you have no resistance beckons you, its sentimental aroma exuding pure temptation. This is how the relationship you have with one another should be, and that's something that is fun to emphasize in a unity ceremony. Your uncharted territory, the coming years that lie ahead, where you will learn and grow and explore one another fully and more intimately within the commitment of your marriage. And as with chocolate, you will experience the bitter and the sweet. Sweet moments so perfect they overwhelm your senses, your emotions. The bitter moments attest to your strength. There will be times that one of you will need to be strong for the other to nourish the other's spirit, and at other times you will both share joys that will take you above the clouds. Your marriage will be this way, sweet and gentle at times and dark and bitter at others, but it will always nourish you. So then I have them take a moment to use the sweetness of chocolate to nourish one another, because chocolate is one of the few foods that feeds and nourishes not only the body, but the heart and the soul. And then by feeding and nourishing each other with chocolate, you end up promising to always be there, nourishing one another throughout your lives together. And you can sweeten it at the end. You can feed each other a kiss. You can feed each other a piece from a bar of chocolate. We can even pull a ceremony in where you make your own little bit of hot cocoa, and that would have been good to do on the beach in January. It's cold. But so, I mean, those are just some ideas behind chocolate.
So the chocolate ceremony, that's actually considered a unity ceremony, correct?
Yes, it can definitely be used as a unity ceremony. It can be used in lieu of the candle, the sand, the hand fasting. We have so many options anymore is for unity ceremonies that there aren't any restraints on us anymore, which is kind of nice.
So if you elect to do the chocolate ceremony, that's going to be a stand-in for. I know the candle, the Unity candle is, I think, the most popular Unity ceremony. So that would be a stand-in for that, or could you do the two side by side, or include both of them?
You could do them together if you chose to. I have couples. This year I'm doing a chocolate ceremony with a love letter ceremony. We're combining that. There is no reason to just do one. It's all about how you want to express yourself in your ceremony.
And if you're the common theme, I would imagine, is about unity and coming together, then having multiple unity ceremonies makes a complete sense. It doesn't have to be restrictive down to one type of ritual, correct?
Correct.
I like this picture of you on the beach. This was, where was this done?
That was at Ruby Beach, which is just out past Forks, Washington. It's a beautiful beach. They have these amazing rock formations where we actually had the ceremony take place. My couple, they wanted to elope, so we pulled together. I've got a package called Elegant Elopements, and we pulled everything out there. We set up a table for them, so they had their sweetheart table on a log. We did this nice little, what do you call it? The spot that they can stand in with cedar and flowers bursting around it and candles, so that it kind of made their space, and I stood outside of it, so it was just the two of them inside of it. It was just a very nice elopement that they pulled in a videographer from Nashville and a photographer from North Carolina. And and did this great amazing video that Style Me Pretty just featured, and the photographer's shots are floating around everywhere. That it was an amazing day on January 7th this year. It was very cold, hence the hat and the pea coat.
Oh boy.
Normally I wear a suit.
I noticed that you had a video for this. You sent me a video. I got to check it out. It was, my goodness, you could tell the guy was an absolute professional. It was such a beautiful ceremony. And I think we have a URL for that. So we'll go ahead and we'll share that with the audience so they can kind of take a look at that video of this particular ceremony where you're doing the chocolate ceremony, if that's okay with you.
That would be lovely, yes.
And what about you, Chaplain Dale and Elaine? Have you two ever used the chocolate ceremony or incorporated chocolate into any of your ceremonies?
I have not. You know what it reminds me of, though, is the wine and love letter box. And Amber, you had mentioned that you had combined the chocolate with the love letters. I think combining the chocolate with the wine would be fabulous as well. You've got your own little party right there. And again, it is all about unity. And so, writing the love letters and having a piece of chocolate and putting your wine in a box, and it's just all about unity. And I love it. I have a question for you. Where do you normally place that ceremony? Where does that go after the vows, or where do you put that?
I give my couples kind of an option. I'm very much of a work with you kind of gal. So in the center of your ceremony, it can go your vows, your unity ceremony, and your ring exchange, or your vows, your ring exchange, your unity ceremony. It's really all what the couple feels solidifies their togetherness perfectly. So if feeding them chocolate is, how it solidifies it for them, then we'll put that at the end. But if slipping that ring on the finger is what solidifies their marriage for them more, then we'll put the chocolate before the ring and after the vows.
That would be kind of cool. It would probably be a good idea not to do the chocolate right before you announce them as husband and wife, or they kiss each other, because then there'd be kind of a chocolate kiss. Actually, it would be kind of cool to have a little chocolate kiss.
It's very similar to your cake cutting. So you generally feed each other the cake and then give each other a kiss.
Well, excellent. And you can utilize different kinds of chocolate. I mean, you can actually have chocolate maybe that matches the couple's personality. You can have dark chocolate, so it's not so sweet, or you can utilize even spicy chocolate, which is something I would love personally. So it kind of reminiscent. Have any of you seen that movie back in 2000, Chocolat, with Juliette Binoche?
Oh, I love that movie. Yes.
Oh, one of my favorites.
Yeah, very good movie.
We're talking about chocolate, and it just evokes that
Mhm.
movie in the background. Okay, so moving on, thank you so much, Amber, for sharing with us the chocolate covered or the chocolate ceremony. I believe you're going to be covering a little bit more about the whiskey ceremony here, but I'm going to be talking about something called the tasting of the four elements. And I did a lot of research on this ceremony, and a lot of people have written. I found it all over in different blogs and articles that this is a traditional African ceremony. It's originating with the Yoruban tribe, and I wanted to try to substantiate that. And the further I dug, the more I realized that most of these people that wrote about this all centered around a single article that was written around 2001 in the Knot magazine. So the Knot sourced this as being an African ceremony. I had another officiant tell me that this is also an Eastern ceremony, that this is, I believe, part of the Orient in some of their wedding traditions. I don't know. I'm still searching for that, where it originated historically. But it's not a very popular ceremony, but it is a very beautiful ceremony. And the way it works is you have four different elements. You'll see in the lower left-hand side, we have a little tray, and inside of each one of those trays, we have four different ingredients. And we have lemon that represents the sour elements. We have also vinegar. You can use, some people have opted for soda water, but I don't let any of my couples get away with it because watching the reactions on their faces is part of the fun. But you can use vinegar to represent bitter, cayenne pepper, if you like, to represent spicy, and of course sugar or even honey to represent the sweetness. In terms of the spicy, coming from New Mexico where I'm at, I'd probably opt for some Hatch green chili. But like chocolate, you can be inventive and utilize whatever type of ingredient that you want to do. And the way the ceremony works is you have it either directly before the vows or immediately after the vows. And what you do is you have each couple feed each other one of the four elements. And it usually starts off with the lemon, which represents sourness. And with these different combinations of ingredients and flavors, there's an interesting parallel with the actual vows themselves. So where we have bittersweet flavors, they represent like richer or for poorer. And just as the sour and spicy, they align to like the better or worse in sickness and in health. And what you do is after the bride and the groom, or the groom and the groom, or the bride and the bride, after they feed each other these ingredients, you get to see the reactions on their face. And it's just so funny watching this. It really engages the audience. I have there's a couple of YouTube videos out there that you can watch of this ceremony being performed. And alone, just watching the couple's facial expressions as the vows are being said is priceless, and it gets everyone kind of integrated and pulls everyone in. And it's just a unifying type of interaction. Watching that happen. I've tried this recently. I did this with a same-sex couple back in January, actually a couple of days after your wedding ceremony, Amber, there in Forks.
Nice.
And it worked out really, really well. You could see from here, we have our couple feeding each other, but can you see the reaction of the couple? Like on the second picture, we have one of the couples, he's eating it, but the other one had just eaten it, and he's trying to cover up the reaction of the lemon, of having to taste that lemon juice. It was really priceless to watch that. And you can say different vows. So as they're tasting this is something that I wrote I'll give you an example for this particular ceremony, and something I would state would be, you've tasted the lemon and you have found it to be sour. How wise this tradition is to let you taste the sourness of the lemon first. For marriage, indeed all marriages have their moments, including periods of unhappiness. Marriage, the nights can be colder, can be longer, and more lonely than anything you two have experienced as single individuals. But the wisdom of this ritual symbolizes these moments, and they will be endured. You will never progress to the other elements if you cannot endure this one. This ritual has you taste the sourness of the lemon, and they are telling you to endure it. For just as it comes, surely it will go, and any unhappiness in your marriage will leave. It's a fleeting moment, and you only need to hold on and to endure. So each one of these ingredients, you can customize the message of these flavors as you are tasting them, and it really produces just a beautiful moment that's filled with meaning, and it's engaging with the newlyweds and for the audience. One of the things that I've done in the past is, even though it originates as a traditional African, or the claim is it's an African ritual, it's not limited to the African American community. If you look on the right-hand side, there's a picture of a Caucasian couple that did this. And this wedding ceremony also, I found this on YouTube. You can find this this video of them doing this. And again, just watching their reactions is really priceless, something that I've had really good luck with them in the past. I think it would be a really good choice to include something like this in the ceremony. Again, it's for the couple, for a more traditional couple that want to stick with the more traditional vows. Maybe this wouldn't be the type of ceremony for them, but I think for the couple that really wants to have fun with the ceremony and bring the richness of a historical ceremony and ritual combined with more contemporary, fun, showmanship type of wedding where you want to get everyone involved and laughing, which laughter is very, very important, I think, in the ceremony. This would be a beautiful ceremony, too, that would hit the spot. What do you guys think?
I'm learning a lot. I have to say, I think it's very interesting what's showing up for these unity ceremonies, and I encourage my couples to bring me new ideas and suggestions. I think it's great.
You know,
I love. Sorry. Oh, okay. I was just gonna say I love the vastness of choices that there are out there. I probably give my couples 15 different options when we meet. Sometimes I think I overwhelm them a little bit, but I want them to know that it doesn't have to be one thing. It's their ceremony, so it can be as unique to them as they would like, or as traditional as they would like.
And I'm learning a lot too.
And this is just neat. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no problem. I'm learning a lot too. I love hearing about these traditions. Anything you can do that visualizes what's happening. I mean, there's words, of course, are involved in the ceremony, but the visuals, oh my goodness, it's wonderful.
You know, one of the things that this couple in particular, their favorite, in interviewing them and getting to know the couple, you can really take a ritual like this and just make it hit a home run and personalize it against their personalities or with their personalities. In this example, I'll tell you, the groom, on the one that's wearing the white suit, his favorite show on Netflix is House of Cards, and the other groom, the one on the right-hand side, he loves Empire on ABC. Have you guys ever watched any of those? No? Okay.
So I've watched Empire, yeah.
Yeah. I've never watched Empire. It's one of my dad's favorite shows, he says. But let me show you how I wrote for representing the vinegar, the bitter element. It says, you have found this to be bitter, and you have tasted the vinegar. It's not quite as bad as the sourness of the lemon, though, was it? we'll call them Tom and Jerry for now. So Tom, sometimes in the future, you're going to be watching a final episode of House of Cards, and there'll be a cliffhanger episode to season 4. But Jerry will point out that the TV show Empire is about to begin. This element, sourness, tells us to take the smaller bumps of life in stride. And also just remember, Tom, that House of Cards is on Netflix. You can always come back and finish it later. The point is that now you have demonstrated that you can endure the elements, the smaller bumps in marriage, which is the element 2, and now you can proceed to the finer aspects of married life. So that's one of the ways, just in interviewing the couple, that I was able to take something that they liked, that was personal to them, and incorporate it into something like this ritual. And it did really get some laughs from the audience. So again, I'm getting the cue from our moderator to go ahead and go to our next one. So our next round is we're going to be covering the Filipino wedding, the traditional Filipino Catholic wedding. And Elaine, you're going to be covering this. This is something that you're really familiar with, something that you've done. So what does this look like? What is this, these traditions?
Well, I think it's important to say that for myself, it's lovely to have symbolism as a part of any wedding ceremony, and that can be any of these things that you've mentioned. I actually refer to these little rituals as mini ceremonies to my couples. I often will put them after the vows and feel that they're somewhat of an extension of the vows for the couple, and so that's where a lot of times mine end up for the couple. Of course, like Amber, you mentioned that you're flexible and want to make things work for the couple. I'm the same way. So if we put it somewhere else, it's fine. But the Filipino ceremony ritual, the veil and cord, it's often called, is very traditional. It originated in the Philippines. I wasn't able to find a whole lot of history on it. I think it's been around for quite a while. And I'm going to refer later on in the webinar to Chaplain Dale to ask him if he knows anything about the religious portion of it. But at any rate, the Filipino ceremony ritual highlights the concept that the joining of two individuals is a lifelong commitment of loving and caring. It consists of 4 elements. The unity candle would be the first one, and that one many people are familiar with, as it is very much a U.S. tradition. Then the coins, and then the veil and the cord. So those are the 4 elements that you'll find consistently in the Filipino veil and cord ceremony. It's a very interactive ceremony, which I really love. What I mean by that is that the couple will choose sponsors, usually 2 sponsors for each one of the elements. And the sponsors are going to be women and men who the bride and groom respect and admire, people who have played a very important supportive role in their lives. They are often aunts and uncles or close friends of the family. So it's just a loving expansion of the couple. And they are considered so important in these ceremonies that they are included in the processional. So they will come down, for example, before the family, but they are very much a part of that important part of the wedding ceremony, the processional. Typically, 2 sponsors are chosen for each element. So you'll have 2 people for the candles, 2 people for the coins. Actually, you can also have a ring bearer to come up with the coins as well. You don't have to have 2 people. Sometimes they choose a younger person for as a ring bearer to come forward with the coins. 2 to pin the veil and 2 to lay the cord around the couple. So 2 people. And that gets to be a pretty large processional, because if you've got already 6 on one side and 6 on the other, then you've got 8 more people coming up. It's quite grand and lovely. I really enjoy it. So, and also the sponsors will sit very close to the front, right there with the family, so that they can be called upon easily to come up to the altar or the area where we're conducting the ceremony. And they don't have to step over a bunch of people. So the first element, the lighting of the candles, is, like I mentioned, very similar to the unity candle that many of us are familiar with. In fact, it is a unity candle. I will often ask the mothers of the couple, the bride and groom, to come up, and you'll have 2 tapers, one on each side, and then a larger candle in the center. The mothers will be invited to come up and light a taper each. And then later in the ceremony, the couple will take those 2 tapers and light the center candle, therefore uniting them as a couple. And that's pretty easy to figure out why they call it a unity candle. The second ritual, the coins or the aras, often happens right after the exchange of the wedding rings. The aras are a symbol of the groom's monetary gift to the bride because it is composed of 13 pieces of gold or silver coins.
Oh, wow.
And it is a pledge that the groom is devoted to the welfare and the well-being of his wife and future offspring. And so at that time, when we get to that portion of the ceremony, I will invite by name the 2 sponsors who are going to bring the coins forward. And as I mentioned before, they can choose a ring bearer to bring the coins as well. They give me the coins, and I often, for each element, I will often bless the element. So I'll have the coins, and they start out in a little bag. So I'll have the bag of coins in my hands, and I'll say something like, Lord, bless these coins. Couple, not only material possessions, but abundant spiritual strength, which these coins symbolize, so that they use them to bless others and to attain eternal life. Hold the coins in your hands as a sign that your blessings will no longer be held separately, but together. This is just one example that I took from another ceremony that I did. I will offer suggestions for this portion of the ceremony, but will be more than happy to take whatever they'd like me to read. But there's usually a short little reading, or I'm calling this one a blessing, for each element. So then I open the bag of coins. And of course, we will have rehearsed all of this, because you couldn't just like go through this without a rehearsal. It's
there seems to be a lot of spinning parts, or a lot of working
There kind of are. Yeah, there kind of are. So I will open the bag of coins and drop the coins into the groom's hand. And then the groom will place the coins in his bride's hand. She will then repeat after me, I accept these coins as a pledge of my total dedication and constant concern for your welfare. So you can see that the coins are representing a monetary value for the success of the couple, the success and the welfare of the couple. And so then at that point, the coins come back to me, and I will either give them to the sponsors, they'll go sit back down, or I'll just place them somewhere that's convenient. The next part is the veil. So again, I will call the 2 sponsors that are responsible for this to come forward with the veil. It's usually long and rectangular and is draped over the shoulder of the groom and above the bride's head. After the veil is placed over the couple, I will then again share some words. I'll just share a few lines with you. We have 2 individuals before us now who after this day will become as one, sharing one home, one name, and one family. So the couple is there. They have the veil and the cord. The last element, sorry, that was the veil. The last element, see, even I'm getting confused. The last element is the cord. So after the veiling, I will invite the 2 cord sponsors to come up, and they will then place the cord, and it sometimes is a very large rosary, actually, over the couple's shoulders in the sign of infinity, a sideways figure 8. This cord symbolizes the everlasting fidelity and signifies that they walk the world as equals. And then another little reading. This cord symbolizes an infinite bond of love you share that keeps your relationship strong in the face of adversity, as well as that you are both no longer 2, but 1 in marriage. And so again, that concept of unity is played throughout all 4 of these elements. Now, just as there is the placing of these elements on the couple, there is also the removal. While the veil and the cord are happening, that portion of the ceremony, those sponsors will often stand off to the side, as I will, because there's just, too many hands in the pot at that moment. I need to get out of the way so they can do their thing. So I will then, when that's all done, I will then invite the sponsors to remove the cord, and then I will then invite the sponsors to remove the veil. and then they will one by one walk down and take their seats again. Now, one thing that I didn't mention is that for a few of my ceremonies, the couple have brought in a pew, like they've gotten an actual pew to kneel down on. And so they're kneeling the whole time all of this is taking place, making it feel more, religious and that. So it's very symbolic. It's very traditional to their culture, and it's really lovely. And I love doing it. It's just a great ritual.
I'm looking at the pictures and I'm kind of visualizing the whole ceremony as you're walking us through it, Elaine. And two things that jump out at me right away is time and physical space, like the real estate,
yes.
how much it takes up at the altar or at the top. So in terms of time, how much to include or incorporate these series of rituals? What do you think from the time that those coins are presented to the time that the rosary is lassoed over? How much time do you think that adds? That's
a good question. I'd say a minimum of 5, like maybe even 10 minutes. They're all different. Every ceremony that we do is different. So, for example, I think the first Filipino ceremony that I performed, the coins came up in this bag that was like all tied up and had a knot in it and everything. And, then I had to get those out. And then, so everything can change, of course, in a wedding when it's live. But obviously it's going to take a little bit longer than just the unity candle itself, which is something that we all do on a regular basis. That can go pretty quickly. This one is like the unity candle times 4. So, imagine, that it's just going to take longer by virtue of the fact that there are additional elements. Amber, what do you think?
I was going to say, even if it takes longer with all of that you put into those pieces of the unity ceremony, you can shorten some of the other elements. Like if the couple wants a short ceremony or the 30-minute ceremony, which seems to be what goes around, you can shorten other pieces because you say so much and it's so moving and you have that amazing processional that you can still get, with that unity ceremony, you can still get the couple that 30-minute ceremony that they want because you can shorten the welcome, or you can shorten talking about marriage because you're talking about the marriage and them coming together in that unity ceremony.
Yeah. I've never had anybody complain about the time. And usually when couples come to me and they want this to be a part of their ceremony, they know exactly what they're getting into. They've seen it. It's part of their culture. It's part of their tradition, and they're up for however long it takes. But I'd say a minimum of 10 going into, maybe a little bit
10
longer.
10 to 15 probably.
I think
that's what I would say too. Like you can extend it into like a total 45-minute ceremony probably, and that would be pushing it in time, like with the processional and everything. But again, like you said, on the day of, if you've got an extra knot, live means either there can be hiccups or not, but generally anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes for that full ceremony would still be plenty of time to add that. And it is, like you said, so moving and so worth adding it.
I feel honored when I get an opportunity to orchestrate it.
I think also for the couple that's wanting to go for the grandiose, for making something almost like a production, this type of ceremony, having so many different moving parts, would give a beautiful textured meaning and richness to it that can really, I think, transform and bring life to a ceremony. Is this ideal only for Filipinos and or Catholics, or can other people adopt it? Or
that's a really, really good question, Santiago. And I think that the majority of the rituals that we orchestrate as officiants can be used by just about anyone. However, when it's something specific to a culture, I think it's lovely, but I think this is just my opinion, I think it might be confusing to people if a couple who has
Yeah,
no
good point.
relationship with the Filipino community all of a sudden decides to do
Correct.
a Filipino veil and cord ceremony. You know,
Correct. Yeah.
I had
Like,
a
what's going on
couple.
here? Yeah.
I know. I just think it would be confusing. Like I had a couple once, and I'll wrap it up here really quick. I had a couple. A bride once wanted throw in some Jewish elements into her ceremony, and they weren't Jewish, and she wanted to step on the glass and be under a huppah, and because she thought it was really cool. And I said, well, you know, you kind of can do whatever you want. I'm really flexible, but I just want to encourage you to think about your guests. Are they going to be confused? Or, you know, have they ever seen this before? So we have that talk, you know, and usually they take my advice, and it just, everybody's different. Everybody's
It seems to
different.
be a balancing act. You want it to be contextual. You want it to be pertinent to the people that are going to be attending, but at the same time, you're only limited by your imagination, and you can
Yeah.
really take something that's old and historic and really make it, you know, drive it home. And one case, beautiful case for that, would be this tradition. It's called hand fasting, and I believe our good chaplain in the room, he's going to be covering this. You want to tell us a little bit more about hand fasting?
Yeah, sure do. Thanks, Santiago. Hand fasting is an idea that was presented to me by a bride, I suppose, about 7 or 8 years ago. Frankly, I had not heard about it at that point, but did a little research. And this has some Celtic and Scottish beginnings. I understand there was some Norse influence that maybe came into play as the Celts and the Scots adapted this. But, you know, a lot of, even in modern society, a lot of times a handshake represents, hey, we have an agreement, we have a verbal contract, and this is kind of an elaborate form of that, if you will. What would happen, I understand, with Celts, with Scots, and some Eastern European locations, the couple would, and here's my adaptation of it, they'd hold hands in, here's the infinity circle again, in a figure 8, in a infinity symbol pattern. They'd hold hands, and what I do, I always ask the couple to bring a ribbon or a light cord or very thin rope. A ribbon can be in the colors of the wedding to help make that visual statement as well. But they'd face each other, hold hands together. I usually like to do this either in place of the vows or right after the vows and the rings. But just kind of the added sealing point here. These declarations that I'm going to tell you about can happen in place of the vows, and they work just nice. But usually as they begin to hold their hands, I will make a symbolic statement that you're now holding the hands of the one who will be with you by your side for all the days that are ahead. These are the hands that will wipe the tears from your eyes, tears of joy, tears of sadness. These are the hands that will be there to support you in good times and difficult times, word it however you might do that. And then I'll take the cord, which usually will be on a table or stand of some sort near me up at the front. And then I'd ask them some questions. And as they answer the questions, usually the questions will require a response of "we do." I have them say that together. Do you take these hands and vow to honor the commitment that you're making today? So on, so on. If so, would you say "we do"? And they'll say "we do," and I'll wrap loosely around their wrists the ribbon, and then make another question. They would make the declaration again, "we do," but ask them about, you know, their permanence, their love, their support through all the things. You can word those any ways you like. Then at the end of that, I have them bring at least 7 feet of cord, but and I custom if their hands are thick or the ribbon is thick and it goes a little, anyhow, we cut off the questioning when we run out of cord. But get to a point where then I will tie a knot. I wasn't a very good Boy Scout, so I know how to tie a shoelace knot, and that's about it. But I'll tie a knot, and then I'll put one hand atop the knot, one hand below their wrist, and we have some kind of blessing or pronouncement. It can be a prayer, whatever their traditions and their preferences are. And we have some kind of pronouncement or blessing or prayer. And then at the end of that, I'll hold the knot at the top and at the bottom. Hopefully I've made that loose enough so that they can pull their hands out. And then I'll put that on top of the stand or table that's up there. And many couples take that. They may put it in a shadow box or some place if they wish to retain it that way. But works well with all kinds of couples. Some couples, probably most couples, like to do the vows plus the rings plus the hand fasting. And many couples streamline it, and I think this works just great. Make that the replacement for the vows, because the declarations essentially accomplish everything that the vows would. And works pretty neat. Most people, as with all the ceremonies that we've described here, they're fairly unique, very memorable, very visual. And a lot of people afterwards say, hey, I've never seen that before. A lot of times I tell couples when they're considering this, if you want something that maybe most of your audience hasn't seen or heard of, this may be the visual, the ritual that you like. But yeah, I enjoy doing these.
I think this would be considered the most literal sense of the unity ceremony. Yeah. You don't get more unified than being tied together in a very literal form.
It's very tied. It's my understanding it's where we get the phrase to tie the knot in reference to marriage.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's new. I hadn't heard that. That's awesome. That makes complete sense now.
Yeah.
And
so they can say we tied the knot. Yep.
It's really interesting too. I'm noticing a correlation amongst all of these rituals. You know, with the chocolate ceremony that crossed over into the tasting of the elements, and the tasting of the elements, you know, crosses over to the Filipino wedding with their own 4 different elements that they're using, and then the Filipino wedding having that rosary unified. Now we get into hand fasting in terms of meaning and symbology or symbols. All of these things are kind of just representing similar items. So it's like unifying, coming together, all in different forms and shapes. It's really just, I'm seeing this starting to come together now. It's pretty interesting stuff.
And it tells our couples that there's no wrong way to do it or no one way to do it.
Absolutely, and I think you hit a perfect segue for our next segment, the whiskey barrel ceremony. I mean, if you're going to do something different, this definitely would be something that would be perfect. I was imagining for the younger couple, but for any couple that loves spirits. You want to tell us a little more about the whiskey barrel ceremony and how it works?
Sure. I think a couple came to me a year or 2 ago with the idea, and so I started doing some research. And basically, you know, whiskey derives originally from a Gaelic term that I'm not going to try to pronounce, meaning water of life. And whiskey's been around for hundreds of years. I mean, it was also used as currency. And while I was doing a little research on whiskey, I dug up a Southern ceremony called burying the bourbon. And the wine ceremony has been around for ages. So alcohol is a part of your It's a part of your wedding ceremony and is not a new idea. And couples are constantly looking for ways to make their day unique. And while unique, it does have a similar quality to the sand or the lighting of the candle, because you're taking 2 1-liter bottles of raw spirit and you're pouring it and the little things that help it age into this cute 2-liter whiskey barrel. And there's a place, I'm not going to remember where. I think it's up in the Cedro-Woolley area. I can look it up at some point, but they actually have kits. And I think you can buy kits online anymore, because what can't you find online? But that basically has everything that you need, and they'll send it to you. And I think there's a bourbon distillery in Gig Harbor. So there are different things, you know, different ways you can do it. But how I did it for this one couple was basically, and so, you know, so and so and such, you have chosen to conclude this celebration with a whiskey barrel and 2 bottles of raw spirits. Combining the raw fires of these spirits and letting them age is a beautiful symbol of what you see your new adventure as husband and wife as. For just as whiskey becomes richer and finer with age, so will your marriage. And then you say, before us is a miniature wooden barrel ready to receive the raw spirit that will one day become what many refer to as liquid gold. Then you just ask the couple to come forward and blend the liquid into their bottles, or from the 2 bottles into the wooden barrel. And then basically the aging process takes the spirit from clear and raw to golden bliss. And it should be cured, because it's such a small little barrel, by their 1-year anniversary. And so we usually throw in there that they can sit on their 1-year anniversary and sip the whiskey that has bloomed and as their marriage has, and talk about the last year together. And then in that aspect, it's very similar to the love letter and wine box, because you're supposed to sit on your 1-year, your 5-year, or your 10-year anniversary. Ideally, your 50-year anniversary, but none of my couples want to wait 50 years. So this is a good alternative, and bringing it down to that 1 year to see, how everything turned out, and to chat about how you were together for the last year, and how, reminisce about your wedding day. So yeah, that's kind of the whiskey barrel ceremony.
So could you, if you wanted to not have it as far as 50 years, I don't know about the fermentation process of how whiskey works, but could you extend it out maybe to a 5-year mark, or any time longer than 1 year, or is, because of the distillation process, is it kind of confined to that one period? 1 year.
Whiskey generally gets better the longer it sits. So there's no reason to not let it cure for the 5 years. But that's definitely a better question for a whiskey distiller, just from what I've read and researched. And especially when you're using the larger casks, it takes a lot longer, but it's always better the more it ages. So I imagine letting it cure for 5 years would not be a bad thing.
I'm just thinking off the cuff. This is completely off the cuff, but depending on the distillation process, wouldn't it be cool if you did this ceremony and then each year you just take 1 shot glass of the whiskey, and then as each year progresses, the quality of that whiskey shot gets better and better and better? I don't know if that would be possible. I'll have to definitely consult with
check with the distillery and see what they say, because it may be once you pop no, it shouldn't be once you pop the cask. I think it would. Definitely talk to the distillery.
Chaplain Dale, any insight behind the distillation process?
No, I have no expertise there, but I kind of like, if it works, what you suggested, maybe a sip at 1 year and 1 at 2, and keep it going.
Gotcha. Well, I'll tell you what, we are running behind on time. I'm so sorry. We do have one question that's come in, but I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I want to thank each one of you for coming out and joining us today. It's been certainly a pleasure and a privilege working with each one of you.
Happy to be part of it.
Yeah. Thank you for having us. It was a lot of fun.
So with that being said, I want to thank Ms. Elaine Way. Elaine, if people wanted some more information about where they can find you and they want to reach out to you, how can they find you? You need to turn on your microphone. Sorry.
You got me trained to turn it off. Now I'm turning it off instead of turning it on. My domain name is very easy. It's Seattle Wedding Officiants. And all you need to do is go to the internet. I'm also on Wedding Wire, and I'm around.
Okay, excellent. Well, we'll push out that URL where you can find you over on your website. I definitely would check you out. You come highly reviewed, and so thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Santiago. Elaine. It's been a pleasure, and thank you, panelists.
Thank you.
And with that, next, we want to thank you, Chaplain Dale. You are amazing. You're awesome as usual, and all the dealings behind the scenes and here with some of the information you presented. So thank you so much. How could people reach out and find out more about your services?
You bet. My website is chaplaindale.com, CHAPLAINDALE.com. Also on Wedding Wire, and your inquiries always welcome. Love to interact with people doing this sort of stuff or looking for creative ceremonies. And other panelists, I got to tell you, I have learned a bunch today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chaplain Dale, for joining us. It's certainly been a big pleasure. I think I could speak for all of us when I say that. And last but not least, the amazing Reverend Amber Bartz. Thank you so much for joining us today, Amber.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Tell us a little bit about where we can find more about your services.
Well, so the name of my business is Celebrations by Amber. So there's an S on the end. So my URL is www.celebrations, CELEBRATIONS, by BY, Amber, AMBER.com. I'm also on Wedding Wire. I've been on Wedding Wire for, 4 or 5 years and have over 80 some wonderful reviews, which makes me very happy. And then I'm also on Facebook. You just search Celebrations by Amber LLC and I'll pop right up and you'll see tons of photos from weddings that I've done.
Beautiful weddings. Again, I wanted to encourage you to take a look at the URL that Amos that we shared earlier today. It was just a beautiful video and of that ceremony. So thanks again, Reverend Bartz, for joining us. Thank all of you for joining us. We will be back in a couple of weeks. We'll be talking more about wedding vows. That's going to be taking place on Friday, March 24th, again from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock. That's Pacific Standard Time during the lunch hour. You can join us. If you want to go there, you can go to this URL. I believe our moderator, I'll go ahead and I'll put it inside of the chat room here, but that's weddingsbysantiago.com/webinar/ the date of the webinar. That's going to be, again, March 24th, 2017. I'm assembling a panel right now. We're going to really delve into getting into the wedding vows, how you can make those wedding vows really just come alive and make them really, really special. If you have a little bit of fear about putting something, pen to paper and writing out those vows, never fear. You are in good hands. You can bring some of your ideas with you in just a couple of weeks, and we will cover that. So 2 weeks from today, we will see you guys then. And panelists, hang on, and we'll see the rest of you guys next time. You guys, God bless and take care. Talk to you soon.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.